This lesson is on adding and subtracting like algebraic fractions. So the first thing we have to do is talk about finding common denominators. So in order to find a common denominator, let's see, we have 5 over 4x squared y plus 3 over 14xy cubed. My suggestion when you're first starting out finding common denominators is to factor the bottoms as much as you can. Now these aren't polynomials that we normally factor. These are just monomials, but you can break 4 down into 2 times 2, and you can break x squared into x times x, and then you have a y left over. Over here we have a 2 times 7 times x times y times y times y. Now here's what I will tell you. Your common denominator has to contain at least one of every factor that shows up. So 2 is a factor, x is a factor, y is a factor, 7 is a factor. Those are all the different factors. The question is how many of each of those factors goes in your common denominator? And the answer is the denominator that has the most of each factor is how many has to go in your common denominator. So that doesn't make sense, but listen carefully. The 2 is the first thing I'm going to talk about. This denominator has 2 2's. This one only has 1 2. So that means I have to put 2 2's in my common denominator. This one has 2 x's, this one has 1 x. That means I have to put 2 x's in my common denominator. This one has 1 y, this one has 3 y's. So I have to put 3 y's in my common denominator. So this is now the common denominator. Now you have to figure out, what do I have to multiply this fraction by to get this denominator? Well, you have the 2 2's in here already. You have the 2 x's in here already. You only have 1 y, but you need 3 y's. So I'm going to multiply this fraction by y squared over y squared. The reason I'm doing that is, first of all, I'm multiplying by 1. So I'm not changing the value of this fraction in any way. You can multiply anything in the world by 1 and you don't change its value. I'm also making it so that when I multiply y squared by 4x squared y, I get 4x squared y cubed. So the top becomes 5y squared. The bottom I already have written. Now over here, 14 is 2 and 7. Oh, I forgot the 7. Sorry. I have to have a 7 in my denominator too because it appears over here. So I have the 7. I only have 1 2, but I need 2 2's. So I know I'm going to have to multiply this by a 2 over 2. I have 1x, but I need 2 x's. So I need to put an x here and an x here. And then I have 3 y's here, and I need 3 y's in my denominator, so I'm all set. So now when I do 3 times 2x, I get 6x. And when I do 2x times this, I get my common denominator. So now the only thing left to do is to write it nicely. So I'm going to go 5y squared plus 6x over, remember 2 squared is 4, 4 times 7 is 28, x squared y cubed. Okay, let's try the next one. This time we have x over x plus 5 minus 2 over x minus 3. Well, we don't have to factor this because it's already factored. Now some of you might want to say, no, it's x and 5. But x times 5 would be 5x. This is x plus 5. This is a factor. Because remember, x is just a number. And this is a factor. So they have nothing in common. When they have nothing in common, that means one of each has to appear in your common denominator. Now, x plus 5 is here, but I'm missing the x minus 3. So I'm going to multiply this by x minus 3 over x minus 3. So I'm going to take the x that's already there and multiply by x minus 3. Then I have a minus sign. I'm going to put the 2 that's already there. The x minus 3 is already in my denominator, so now I need an x plus 5. And now I have to distribute and combine like terms. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. All over x plus 5 times x minus 3. I'm not quite done yet. Now I need to combine like terms. X squared minus 5x minus 10 over x plus 5 times x minus 3. Now you want to check and see if you can factor this to see if anything cancels. But I know right off the bat it doesn't factor. So because 5 and 2 aren't going to give me negative 5 and 10 and 1 aren't going to give me negative 5. So this is done. One of the most common mistakes is when you get to here, people like to go like this. Oh, look, these cancel out. Absolutely not. X times x minus 3 is not a factor of the top. X is a factor and x minus 3 is a factor, but they're not. They're in the middle of a binomial. This and this create a binomial, so they're not factors in the whole numerator. The whole point of this x minus 3, you put it there so that it would make the common denominator. Just please don't do this. Okay, let's try another one. 5 over x squared minus 5x minus x over 5x minus 25. So remember, the first step is always to factor. Here we have a GCF. Here we have a GCF. Now this time, between the two denominators, I have three different factors. I have an x, I have an x minus 5, and I have a 5, because the x minus 5 is here too. So remember, you need at least one of every factor. So I'm going to do the 5, the x, and the x minus 5. So here in this denominator, I have the x and the x minus 5, but I'm missing the 5. So I have to do this 5 times the 5 that's missing from the denominator, minus, I'm going to put this x here and see what I have to multiply by. I have a 5 and I have an x minus 5, but I'm missing the x. So I have to do x times x. So now I have 25 minus x squared over 5x times x minus 5. Hopefully there's some red lights going off in your head saying, wait a minute, this is the difference of perfect squares. This factors into 5 plus x times 5 minus x over 5x times x minus 5. Now, if you recall, we know that these two things cancel out with a negative 1. Now, let's just review why that is. I'm saying that these two things are the same, except that one of them factors out a negative 1. I could factor out a negative 1 here, but what if I guess I will. Take out a negative 1. When I divide 5 by negative 1, I'm left with negative 5. Negative x, if I take out a negative 1, I have a plus x. If I rewrite this and put the x first and the negative 5 second, notice that these are exactly the same, except there happens to be a negative 1 in front. So your answer to this problem would be negative parentheses 5 plus x over 5x. Nothing else can cross out. Okay, I know that's pretty much as hard as it gets. That's a pretty hard question. So just be patient with me on that one. How about one more? I need a blank sheet of paper. Okay. All right, this is a hard one. Oh wait, where did that one start? Okay. Those are already common denominators. I need something without a common denominator. Remember, when you already have common denominators, you can just add stuff together. So that's pretty easy. Okay, here's a good one. 7 over 3x squared minus 6x plus x squared over x squared minus 4x plus 4. So before you can do anything, you need to factor your denominators. Factor, factor, factor. And this has a GCF of 3x, leaving you with x minus 2. This one does not have a GCF, but it's a trinomial, so we know we need an x and an x, and it's going to be minus 2 minus 2. That's where I get multiplies to positive 4, adds up to negative 4. So when I make my common denominator, I need a 3, I need an x, and I need two x minus 2's, because remember we said you have to have something, you have to have at least one of each factor, but the one that has the most factors, that's what has to go in the common denominator. So this one has one x minus 2, this one has two of them, so you need two of them in your common denominator. So this first fraction, I have a 7, I have the 3, I have the x, and I have one of the x minus 2's, but I need another one. And now I have the x squared here, and I need to multiply by, I have the x minus 2 and the x minus 2, but I have to multiply by the 3x. So now we're going to distribute 7x minus 14 plus 3x cubed all over 3x times x minus 2 squared. That's as far as you can go. That's the best we can do. Because the top doesn't factor. I mean, it would be nicer if you wrote it as 3x cubed plus 7x minus 14, but you can't factor that. It's a trinomial that does not factor. So that's all there is to know about that.